reasonable banter.
You're listening to Beyond Boss Fights, gaming, technology,
Ugh.
movies, and
Nose.
more.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond Boss Fights. Oh, my music just skipped. My computer can't handle me talking and the music playing at the same time. I think it's time for an upgrade, DJ.
Always time for an upgrade.
It just can't. It's too many things. Too many things.
The computer's like a month old. That's too old. Get a new one.
It's terrible. I know. Actually, I was surprised. I went back and, oh, by the way, this is Beyond Boss Fights. I am your host, Brax Wolf. And we've also got with us today, straight out of Natty, DJ Pimp Daddy.
Yay!
We're
Sorry,
back.
I'm in a great mood. Saw a Lego movie today.
And worse than ever. Hey, you can't just lead with that. That's not even.
It's a great movie.
It's like in the lower 2/3 of the show notes here.
I know, but it's just like that's been my whole day.
He can't help himself. It's too exciting. It's too exciting. Yeah, I was surprised. I was looking at my my last computer upgrade order because I was kind of curious. I knew that I had upgraded my graphics card last year, but it was kind of lagging a little bit when we were doing our podcast earlier, and it was skipping around, and everybody remembers the technical problems we were having. And so I was trying to figure out what in the world, how old is this thing? And apparently I ordered my motherboard and CPU almost 4 years, actually over 4 years ago now. I really thought it'd been like a couple years. And even worse is I thought maybe I'll upgrade the RAM on it and maybe that'll help a little bit. Who knows? But apparently the motherboard I ordered 4 years ago was still doing DDR3, using DDR3 RAM, which I don't really want to order more of because if I'm going to upgrade the rest of it, then I'm not going to reuse the DDR3 anyway. So anyway, that's enough.
Yeah, I get fuzzy with the whole like DDR3, 4, 5, 8, I just assume the bigger number is the better one.
That's usually the way it is. But I don't know. The thing I don't know is, and somebody will probably tell me I'm an idiot, but I don't know if it's backwards compatible. Seems like sometimes they change the slots for the RAM sticks when they upgrade the RAM. But anyway.
Yeah, and it might work, but that might be like the Achilles heel of your new system, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. If I'm going to upgrade it, I'm not going to use the old RAM. But
also, have you noticed like the further you get in IT, the less you start dealing with hardware and you just forget everything up to that point?
Well, yeah, and it's not just the fact that it's hardware, it's that you don't want to think about it when you get home. So it's not you don't do a lot of research on the technical stuff when you get home if it's not something that's a part of your job,
When I want to do any upgrade in my own PC, my gaming PC, I go to the guys that do the daily desktop support and I ask them because those guys know everything.
That's a great idea. They're excellent at what they do and they love it
your
too.
Local IT guys.
They're passionate about it.
Oh yeah.
So we're moving on to the reasonable banter section of the show. I don't know what makes it reasonable or not.
You put that in quotes, by the way.
You be the judge, I guess. First of all, I want to say that we suck. We don't have time to do podcasts, as we've found out over the past several months. It's one of those things where you kind of get in the mood to do it like late in the summer. You're thinking, this is going to be a great idea. Oh, yeah. I've had some time. Let's spin the podcast back up. And then the kids go back to school and everything ramps back up. And you forget that now you're going to be busy for the next 5 months. And there's not going to be a free night. And when there is one, you're probably just going to go to bed early anyway. So
what's funny is like I've been on this YouTube kick where I've been trying to get more into YouTubing, and now all these people, these famous people that I follow on YouTube, now all of them are like, let's get into podcasting too on the side. You're like, oh my God. It's like a virus that's infecting people. Like there's no possible way for YouTubing and podcasting has gotten to the point where you can't watch everything anymore, right?
No, exactly.
I've started
right.
unsubscribing from everything. I'm just like, I love you guys, but no, there's not enough day.
I think I tweeted a few weeks ago. I thought it was clever. I don't know. Maybe everybody else thought I was annoying, but my tweet said, if everybody is now Twitch streaming, is anybody really Twitch streaming? Because that means there's nobody to watch, right?
Well, it's like, how you could host somebody. I wonder if you could like circularly do it to where like three or four people host each other.
Yeah, scheduling. You could probably do that somehow.
Oh, that's too funny. So, is this where we complain about the weather, or is that the next one?
No, I did want to update the three or four folks that are still with us from the old days. We tried to do some streaming stuff the last 2 or 3 episodes, and I have decided without consulting DJ that we are not going to do that anymore. And what I kind of realized was we could kind of pull it off, but really the 1 or 2 people that actually showed up for the live show they're friends of ours already on Twitter, and they're probably just doing it out of pity more than anything else. And so I appreciate that. Don't get me wrong, but there's really not much point in us doing that the way that we podcast, because it's so sporadic and we don't have a fixed schedule, and we don't use the chat room for a lot anyway. So the extra stress that it adds to getting a podcast put together was not really worth continuing to try and Twitch stream or YouTube stream or any kind of stream. So we're going to just do video recording from here on out, and then rip the audio from that. So we'll have an audio and a video version of the podcast that is not live streamed day that we're recording it.
I think also in our mind we had the envision that by streaming it would be like one take, no edit, right?
Yeah.
And it just there were so many knobs and levers to pull. It got out of control.
Well, and here's the other thing. This is one advantage of not streaming while you're trying to do your show. I think our last episode we realized probably about 10 or 15 minutes in that your audio wasn't coming through, and if we realized that during a recorded session, that's not that big of a deal. Yeah, we wasted 15 minutes, but we fix it and we start over. When you're doing it on a live stream, there's not a whole lot you can do other than just plow through and continue on and try and fix it later, or and that's kind of what we did. I don't remember if we did the whole show without your audio or if I eventually fixed it on the fly, but at least the first 10 or 15 minutes of the show had no DJ, which
I don't listen to this show.
Is it really a show without DJ? Not really. I tried that before and it didn't work real well. Now,
it's your show.
It's our show. I mean, it's a 75-25 split.
Can I be the Paul Schaefer to your David Letterman?
Welcome to the big show. I've always wanted to say that. I always forget to say it. Welcome to the big show. Ironically speaking.
Yeah, so, I'm totally fine with the no streaming. That added so much complexity and goofiness, and it was like we were setting ourselves up for failure.
Well, and what I realized was I think it was resulting in fewer shows, just because when it came time to I actually got the itch to do one, it would go through my mind all this stuff that I'd have to do to get prepared and make sure that it was working, and I was like, I'm not going to do that right now.
Yeah,
I'm just not in the mood for that. So, yeah, I think we could actually probably do more of these if I don't have to worry about all of the technical stuff that went along with streaming.
Imagine just like having a dedicated podcasting computer where you just turn it on and it's ready.
Right, like an appliance. Yeah. I think
someday
I was kind of hoping Zencaster would make things easier, but when it turned out that software didn't work very well either, or that service didn't work very well either, it made things hard. Okay, now it's time for acknowledgments and apologies, section of our show dedicated to our Canadian listeners and followers and viewers. First of all, we want to apologize for taking such a long break. We talked about that and some of the reasons for it. But speaking of Canadians, Canada took revenge on the Midwest by sending us their Polar Vortex. So who's the real villain?
It was a balmy, like 28 degrees today, and it's.
Did it get to 28 there? It was pretty cold here. I think we were in the 17 range here. So.
But but the wind. It's always that Canadian
without wind.
You're just like, oh.
I have fun with the Canadians in my Twitter feed. I hope they know that I'm kidding when I blame them for basically all of our problems.
And then the reply is always sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, they always apologize anyway. So.
The past month has just been brutal as far as temperatures go. So it's probably good we didn't podcast because I have a finished basement, right? But like when it gets like bitter cold, I shut off the heat vents down here just to push more hot air into the rest of the house.
Yeah.
And there was one day where I shut off the basement vents I was working from home, and it was 58 degrees upstairs on the first floor. Like my
That's too
poor
cold, my friend.
yeah, I had to bust out this kerosene heater, and like near the end of the day, I finally had the house up to like 67. But then suddenly the carbon monoxide detector started chirping. I'm
Yeah,
like, okay.
I don't think you're supposed to use those without ventilation.
I was like, we should probably take this outside.
We should probably ask our Canadian friends about that because they probably know about using indoor heaters.
Yeah.
I've got one myself actually that I keep here by my PC. It's not kerosene. It's something that you plug in. It's an electric one.
Yeah, I have one of those too, but yeah, it's like there was no way possible we were gonna podcast in this basement because it was just like the cat walked by and it was like a cube of ice.
So that was really only us poor Midwesterners and northern Midwesterners that had to suffer through that. What I'm seeing now,
The
yeah,
dip.
it was terrible. It was like that was for some reason global warming caused us to get really cold is what I'm hearing. But I believe it. I mean, I'm not being a skeptic or anything. I believe that that's causing some funky things.
The vortex got discombobulated and flew south.
Well, the hard thing was we had like a 6-inch snow, and then it got really cold, so it didn't melt, and then we had another 3-inch snow.
Oh yeah.
And then we had freezing rain, and so my driveway was frozen. It was like a solid sheet of ice, and I live on a hill. And then it snowed another 2 inches on top of that, and because it never got warm enough. Usually where we live, it'll snow. Yeah. It'll be around for maybe a week or a week and a half, but it'll get warm enough where it'll eventually kind of melt off over time.
Yeah.
This was like one after the other, and every time right after it snowed, it dipped to like 9 degrees the next day. So.
Yeah, and here in Cincinnati, it was like if you didn't shovel right after the snow, it was ice. You know, like you were never getting that off the drive. So
exactly.
It looked nice though outside. I busted out the drone and I took so much drone footage up and down my street. But
I saw some of it. Those still pictures that you put on Twitter were really cool.
So okay, well, I mean, winter's coming. Well, it's here actually.
Yeah, we're right in the middle of it. I hope we're kind of on the upswing, but it's only February, so we still. My wife keeps. I don't know if you're watching the video version, you'll notice that I'm trying to keep my face warm.
Yeah, I almost tweeted today. How do you non-beard people deal with this? Because I was like, it is bitter outside.
I started growing this not really for the November thing, but because other people were growing it in November, it was less noticeable. So I grew it during November, and my plan was kind of to wait till the end of February because I do like having it when it's cold out. I mean, my wife kind of makes fun of me. She said, "Oh, that little amount of hair on your face," but I'll tell you what, when you're walking to work in the wind, it helps. Every little bit helps.
Oh yeah, yeah. I started this with No Shave November 4 years ago, and then it just got out of control.
Well, you made me feel better anyway.
It's like, why'd you join the military? I got lost on the way to college.
Anyway, on to video gaming. What have you been playing this week, DJ?
So I swear I'm pseudo retro here. Like I have a pile of brand new games, and for some reason I just keep playing Fallout 4 and Stardew Valley. And I don't think anybody could fault me for either of those games because they're both charming and addictive, right? Yeah. Well, maybe not the charming part for Fallout, but my younger son started playing. He found my Steam library because I did the family sharing, and it has been hilarious to watch this 8-year-old crawl through my Steam library. And he got to Fallout 4, and he like fell into it hard. Like he's been drawing pictures of Pip Boys, and
oh, nice.
Every day he comes up to me. He'll wake up and he'll come downstairs. He'll be eating breakfast, ready for school, and he'll be like, "Did you know in Fallout 4 you can blah 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 blah?" Just like that's all our conversations these days is him talking to me about. And then because he was talking about Fallout 4 so much, I'm like, no, I gotta replay it. So I've been working through it on PS4. I got the Game of the Year edition, just trying to get through it, just get all the trophies. So yes, I'm finally playing the Brotherhood of Steel quest line. You're welcome.
Well, I noticed you tweeted the other day that you were streaming Fallout 4, and so I clicked on in to see what was going on, and you were literally killing the rad roaches at the very beginning of the game.
Oh yeah, I just started that.
And I was like, he's just starting. He's starting over again. And I watched all the way through till you found the Pip-Boy, because I love that part where where you shake the skeleton out of it and put it on.
It's still good. Even like this is probably like my 8th playthrough, I swear. Or a restart, and it's surprisingly still fun to play those early game quests.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things. Like even like when I was restarting a new character on Lotro, like the starter areas are still fun. It's like
so
I don't know if I can redo it again and again and again.
Do you change your character build up at all every time you do it, or do you pretty much do the same type of playthrough?
Yeah, this time I did, because in the past I was like the stealth sniper, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this time I gave my guy a ton of charisma so I could talk my way out of everything. And then I'm also focusing more on just like running and gunning and not hiding as much. And man, you go through so much ammunition.
Well, that goes well with the Brotherhood of Steel leanings.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
I played through kind of as the sneaky sniper the first time, and I started another character around the same time as I was playing through it, with the intent of being more of like a bare hand combat type of
Deathglow,
like a I don't know, like a Black Widow or something, more like I don't know. Anyway, that was what I was going to do. She didn't make it very far though, because I can't do multiple playthroughs back to back.
Yeah. I found this guy's. So speaking of side note, I found this guy's YouTube channel where he replays Skyrim, but he sets like extreme restrictions, and he claims to do true walkthroughs where like all he does is he like min-maxes specific builds, and then he tries to beat, or he sets like a criteria to beat that, right? And like one of them was he was a mage and he wasn't allowed to ever pick up weapons. Like one of them was like he was a two-handed warrior who was dumb as a rock. Just like they were like, it's a really interesting thing. And I'm like, I've considered doing something like that in Fallout 4, but I'm like, I don't have enough time. Yeah. But like that's his entire YouTube channel. It's just him replaying Skyrim like in these extreme ways. But it's fascinating because he has like 8 playthroughs now on his channel, and they're like 80 episodes long, right?
Yeah.
And
wow.
It's ridiculous the diversity that you could play some of these Bethesda games through.
Role playing.
And then Fallout 76 came out.
Did you ever try that one?
No. And my younger son, he keeps seeing previews for it on YouTube, and he's like, "We got to get Fallout 76." I'm like, "Nope, not doing it."
I played probably about 45 minutes of it when it was in beta, or whatever, early access, whatever they called it. Because somebody gave me a buddy code from my ESO guild, and
it looks just like Fallout.
Yeah, I mean, it was okay. I didn't really. I ran into one other person at some point, and we just kind of looked at each other and, almost like Fortnite, just kind of emoted a little bit and went on our way. And I mean, I didn't feel like I had to buy it.
In case that was cropped, I flossed.
It didn't catch me right away like Fallout 4 did, and I don't feel like I know enough about the game to say whether it's good or bad. But it just didn't catch me, and I don't really plan on buying it unless maybe someday it gets really discounted or something. But
really free.
Yeah, I'd probably take it if it was free.
So in my pile of shame, I still have Dragon Quest XI PS4. Who I think I'm only like 4 hours into that game, and I've heard it's like 300 hours long. Red Dead Redemption 2, I think I'm like 10% of the way through that game, and Persona 5, which I'm still like, I'm on like day 7 or something of that game, and I keep seeing like BJ Keaton on Twitter just endlessly gush about Persona, and I'm like, oh, I need to pick that up.
These all seem like very, very long games.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like on PlayStation, on the new PlayStation, I'm deliberately only buying games that I really want to play. That they're not like bust through them real quick. You know,
Yeah, you're gonna get your
not
money's
cheap
worth on
games.
them for
I'm
sure.
definitely getting my money's worth out of all these games, but I only have like 6 games, right? So it's working out.
So
So
I've heard the name Persona 5 talked about a lot. What is that game like? What is it about?
it's hard to describe. It's a JRPG. You're playing as Japanese high school students are the main characters and the protagonist and all that, and the antagonist. And you're fighting against demons. So you're constantly clicking back and forth between the real world and this like demon world, which is like an alternate universe in the same setting.
Mm-hmm.
So like suddenly you come across at the high school suddenly, and you click over to the evil world, and how the high school's the dungeon, right? And then you go in there and you're fighting against all these demons and spirits, and I don't know. It's it's really twisted to even start to describe it, and it's very dark at points. So
Okay. So when you said JRPG, that's probably why I never paid much attention after that.
oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
just not
And
what
it's like modern JRPG.
Okay.
It's like hardcore, like layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of systems, and like that's one of the reasons I'm not very far in it, because
Yeah.
I struggle with those games. Like I just want the attack button, you know.
What do you think of Red Dead so far?
Red Dead is fantastic, but man, there's just too many good games out right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's slowly getting buried, but it is wonderful. And I could totally see myself putting, 100 hours into it.
Right.
Just goofing. So
Yep.
what
Sure
what
wish
do you
they had
play?
a PC version.
You're bitter.
I really would. I would buy it. I would buy it for $50-$60 right now if they had it. But anyways, yes. So Elder Scrolls Online still plugging away. Got the MMORPG bug going still. Much the same experiences that you had. I tried to play. I bought Wolfenstein: A New Order when it was on sale around Christmas time, and it's not a bad game. In fact, it's actually a pretty good game. But again, it's one of those that I played for about 3 nights, and then I kind of got stuck in a place. Even on, I think I'm not playing the easiest mode, but I think I'm playing the middle of the road one, whatever that one is, of difficulty. And I just got stuck somewhere, and I tried for about 20 minutes to get past that one spot without dying, and I didn't. And then the next night, I just didn't feel like getting back into that game again, and it's now been a month later, and I'm still not back in that game. So I don't know.
That's why Red Dead Redemption's getting dust on it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You
It's
just
the
set it
same
aside, and you're just like,
because I've got all these goals in my head for Elder Scrolls Online, that I know I'm missing out on when I'm playing something else. Like for example, I now have I think 6 characters, all different races, and I'm having a lot of fun, leveling. I have three are at max. 3 are at max.
Is it more like you're just trying to get the entire playthrough of all the races all at once, or is it like you're trying to be like a one-man army where you have 6 different like crafting races?
It varies depending on the day. So it's not just races, it's classes. It's probably
Okay.
mostly classes, because the races, they do have some different bonuses, but they're not as noticeably different to play as the classes are, obviously. And so there's so much to do there. I haven't ever done all the content on any one character. I have done one factions content on my main character, and just working towards different builds. I've got some builds out there that I'm working towards on each one, and getting ready for the next expansion that we're going to talk about a little bit later on my what I'm looking forward to section. But it's just every night it's like something different. Well, tonight I'm just gonna do a little bit of Fighters Guild so that I can get some rep there, or maybe I'll play my character that hasn't I don't know, hasn't been through a complete zone yet. Maybe I'll continue on the questing. I do a lot of questing. That's mostly what I do. Every once in a while, I'll get on a dungeon run if the guild needs an extra person. But I don't feel like I'm very good at dungeons.
Yeah,
and
that's how I've always been.
I certainly don't enjoy. I would say about half the time I do enjoy doing a random dungeon with a random group, but it's hard because you never know with a random dungeon, which is where you get your bonuses. You never know which one's going to pop. And there are a lot of times when I can't sit there for 30, 45 minutes and run through a dungeon because it's 10:30 and doggone it, I got to go to work the next day,
Yeah, I work at 7 a.m. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm not a late night guy anymore.
It's not really conducive. I just prefer to quest on my own a lot. And, the stories are fun. I think the voiceovers are fun. And it's just the way I enjoy to play. So
that's good. If it makes you happy, keep playing it.
The other game that I did want to mention is something that was gifted to me from a listener, actually, from who's been listening to the podcast for as long as it's been on, I think.
We're sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, we already covered that. Sorry. Continue.
The quality has gone way down over the past few years. No, they said, hey, I've been playing through this game and I think it's something that you'll really like. And they were right. It's a game called Orwell.
I'll have to look this up.
Yeah. And so the concept here with Orwell is, as my Apple iPod thing.
Gotta get the wireless buds.
Yeah,
more tech.
That's right. I really want them to lose charge right during the show. That would be perfect. So Orwell is a game where you play the role of someone who works for the government, who has access to all kinds of surveillance that the population doesn't know you have access to.
Oh, dear God.
And your job is to feed information back up to the higher ups on people that might be threats, right? And there's a story to it too. So you've got access to websites, you've got access to newspapers, you've got access to telephone conversations and text conversations, and your job is to feed up what you think is relevant information in order to keep the population safe, right? So it's kind of this mind game of, am I really keeping the population safe, and how many lines am I really crossing, being a part of this governmental force that's supposed to be keeping the population safe? And am I making the right decisions? Am I feeding the right information up, or is this vague enough that maybe this person is a threat and maybe they're not? So it's kind of a very interesting mind game type of game, and it's not a very complex interface. It's one that it's a smarter game than it is a flashy game, I guess is what I should say. I would definitely recommend this game. I don't think it's very expensive anymore. I'd guess about $20 maybe or less.
I have the Wikipedia page open. Of course, it's by a German.
But it's
the role of state operative and monitor surveillance source to find national security threats.
It's really cool, but it's one of those that you kind of have to be in the right mindset to play.
Says it's the first game in the series subtitled "Keeping an Eye on You."
Right.
So there's sequels, I guess, or is it one big game?
There is a sequel. I have read that folks who liked the first one were a little bit disappointed in the length of the second one. But I don't know anything else other than that. I think it's very similar to the first one. But yeah, I would highly recommend looking into it. I'm going through it very slowly because, like I said, I'm not in the mood always to play that type of game. But,
yeah, I can see how that's not a just throw it in and run and gun kind of a game.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't just pop in and out. You really.
When you're done, are you all like paranoid? Like Alexa's listening.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great game, and it's a very nice change of pace from an MMO too.
Awesome. I'm seeing a screenshot. You're right. The interface doesn't look too crazy, but yeah, it's all data points and.
Yep.
I'm looking at something like it looks like someone's like file a
Yeah.
file on somebody.
Yeah, exactly. There's no animations. There's no, even when you're listening, quote unquote, listening to phone conversations, it's really just text flowing across the screen.
Yeah.
But it's still, they do it in a way where it only, it appears a little bit at a time. So it feels like you're listening to a conversation, even though it's just text showing up.
Awesome.
It's clever. It's very clever.
Good catch. I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah. And I wish I remembered who it was that gifted it to me. But if you're listening, thank you. It's excellent. It's very good. Okay. Topics for discussion.
Woohoo.
Now, this is a question that came into my mind because the next expansion for Elder Scrolls Online is going to be releasing a new class.
Mm-hmm.
And that class is one that a lot of people have been asking for, and it's called a necromancer. And if you've played any kind of high fantasy, a necromancer is someone who kind of uses, reanimates the dead or whatever, using spirits. I don't really understand. Somebody tried to explain to me once that it's not really just raising, dead husks of zombies, but that's what it seems like to me. So
that just sounds like them justifying it.
Yeah, they had some very technical explanation for using spirits and stuff like that, but and I've been kind of surprised because there's this, people keep asking this question. Okay, who's excited to play the Necromancer when it releases with the big chapter update for Elder Scrolls Online? About half the people are saying, yes, I'm going to roll a Necromancer. I've been waiting for this. This is going to be so awesome, a new class. And about half the people are like, there is no way I'm going to be playing a Necromancer.
Well, yeah, because when you think about necromancers in most fantasy that I read, necromancers are like the bad guys, right?
Yes. And even in ESO, a lot of the guys you fight are people who are practicing necromancy.
Yeah.
And from a lore perspective, there are certain races who consider it very heinous to practice necromancy. So
that was like half the plot of Elder Scrolls. What is it? Oblivion, right? Like you fought necromancy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I haven't gotten far enough to tell you.
Oh,
I need to play that. I really want to.
Oh,
it's out there with Wolfenstein New Order, but
you got to finish that. That's a good game.
But here's the thing. So the reason a lot of these people don't want to be playing a necromancer is because they can't envision commanding or playing a character that would practice necromancy, because they see it as just too far on that side of it's not even like a gray area anymore. It's now in the dark side, right?
Yeah.
And how can a hero practice necromancy? And so it's just their mind cannot reconcile that one of my characters would ever be like that.
Well, that's, just bring it full circle back, like as part of the Oblivion, the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, in that game setting, necromancy was prohibited. So then the necromancers were like, they went scattered to the winds, and you find them in all these caves and stuff. But when you find them, it's just like your character, you go in there and like all you could think about is just killing these people and wiping them out, right? And I think in Skyrim, it was one of the magic lines, right? There was conjuration.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yep.
Yeah. And that kind of had a little bit of necromancy in it, but it didn't go as deep as
my
Oblivion did.
My last Skyrim playthrough. I played a mage that used a lot of conjuration. It was actually a pretty cool skill line.
Yeah.
And
so they've tiptoed this line just in their own lore.
I will say that they are trying to find a way to address this within the game. They've said that, similar to like if you're in a town and you steal something or you pickpocket someone and you get caught, if you go into a town where there's a lot of guards and stuff and you pop a necromancy skill, they're gonna come after you, right? Because that's even in this timeline. Within Elder Scrolls, it's not acceptable to be a necromancer. But I'm curious, do you have any kind of hang-ups like that with either skill lines or classes or races or even genders that you can't really get over in your mind?
I honestly, it would be the Necromancers would be the, the biggest one. Like, I don't think I've ever actively tried to play that type of a class. But even just in the Elder Scrolls series, like for whatever reason, I never play as like the Argonians or the lizard people, right? I just there's just something about like I have no problem playing as the Khajiit, right? But for whatever reason, I'm like I can't be a lizard. I just can't do that. But I mean, even in generic RPG games, I rarely play as a mage because the balances that I find in them are difficult. You're either way underpowered or you're way overpowered. And there's like, and then like it might jump real quickly in either direction, right? And just to me, it just seemed when you play as fighters or as thieves or something in traditional RPG games, it just seems like you have a more balanced, fun time. I wrote down bards because bards were one of those classes I never ever played, right? And then the last time I started playing actual tabletop Dungeons and Dragons with some of my old coworkers, that was the first time I've ever played as a bard, and it was literally like I've never played as a bard. So I went and I did a little research, built my character correctly, and I had such a blast playing as a bard. Like it was hilariously fun. And now I'm like, I go out of my way to see if I could find like a bard character, like when I play new games, because I'm just like, it was so fun playing it just as a bard. And like I say, that's why I put reformed on the notes. I was just like, I would have never thought that would have been such a fun class to play.
Did you ever play a minstrel in Lotro?
I tried, and I think that was just the people I were playing with, because when you play solo minstrel, and it's your very first character in an MMO ever, and you're just struggling to figure it out. Like I just wasn't having very much fun. Okay. And then I went back and played as a guardian, and then as an alternate character, I restarted as a minstrel again to be a healer for when my sons and I play, and that was a lot more fun when you play as a group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just a healer.
Yeah.
A solo healer is kind of. Eh.
Yeah, I'm finding the same type of deal with it. I built a tank in ESO, and it's like, but I mostly play him solo, which is like, well, why am I doing this? It just takes me forever to kill someone. But the guy, he never dies. I'll tell you that. He can stand in there, and 5 guys can be just smacking him around, and he just stands there and kind of swats them away like flies.
Ow, ow, ow.
Yeah, I mean,
I think me not playing as magic or favoring magic style users literally goes all the way back to the beginning, like even back to like Final Fantasy 1 days, right? I rarely chose black mages and white mages, right? I was always more for the fighters and the barbarians, and and I have a soft spot every now and then for a good thief or something, but
yeah. When I first started playing Lotro, which, as you know, is my first MMO, I chose the hunter, and I couldn't really figure out why I would want to do magic type classes either. Where Lotro, I think they call them lore masters, but I've really enjoyed maining a sorcerer in ESO. It's been a lot of fun. It's kind of like, I mean, it's very similar to a hunter class in Lotro. It's a range damage dealer. It's just the animations are a little bit cooler. So I'm with you on the Argonians. I still, that's one of the races in ESO that I still haven't rolled, and it's just kind of, there's nothing wrong with them. In fact, for a long time, they were one of the stronger classes or stronger races for some of the builds that were out there.
Yeah.
But it didn't really interest me. I just didn't. And I also will say that when I first started playing Lotro, I think I had 5 or 6 characters in Lotro, and none of them were female. And it just didn't. I
think I almost always roll a female.
It didn't really seem right. Sipster from Massively is the same way. He always rolls females.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't seem right for some reason, but the longer I played, the more I kind of felt comfortable with doing that kind of thing. And now about half of my characters in ESO are females, and my main is. So it's just something that I kind of had to get used to the thought of. So, I mean, I think you could probably get used to just about anything. And Maybe not Argonians, but
My Brotherhood of Steel playthrough, I rolled a man finally.
there you go. I haven't done that in Fallout. I haven't rolled a man in Fallout either. That's interesting.
It's weird hearing the voiceovers and suddenly it chimes in with a dude's voice and you're like, oh yeah, I chose a man. Like you always forget that you have a man because you've always played this female character.
Well, I really like the voice actor for the female, and I'm going to forget her name now because I'm old, but Courtney, I don't remember. Courtney something. I just think she does a fabulous job. She plays Jack in the original Mass Effect trilogy. Really? And she is, I like her. So nice. I like playing the female in Fallout 4.
Another thing I don't play a lot of, even if I have the choice, is like some sort of like a robot or, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Androids or cybernetic sort of people.
Well, let's ask this question, because you're just now doing the Brotherhood of Steel playthrough, because why?
Like the airship just flew over. Like that's where I'm at in the game. So.
Right, but I mean you've never, in all your other playthroughs, you've never gone that route. You've never joined that faction.
Well,
so
this time I'm explicitly chasing PlayStation trophies, right? So I'm forcing myself to play the other ones. But even in that, I think it was just like when I saw the Brotherhood of Steel. I know I could see how people hate the Institute, but like the Brotherhood of Steel, it's like they just sort of force themselves upon the Commonwealth, right? You're just like, almost in like a rapey kind of a way. You're just like, we're gonna be here and you're gonna like it, you know? It's just like,
and I like to give you a hard time.
Like, hold still, we're trying to save you.
But I'll tell you. I didn't do the Brotherhood of Steel. I didn't align myself with them on my playthrough. I actually did the Minutemen. Which I've heard them and the Railroad are kind of like, they're a little bit more middle ground, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so just watching some YouTube channels about it recently, I've seen that like the Minutemen are the only ones that are almost neutral. They're like, they're just for the people, and that's their only intention. But then the other three, the Railroad, the other three are like, they have some extreme where they hate the other two, right?
Right.
So like, that's where like you have to do 3 playthroughs to get the entire plot, right? It's like, but I think I'm finally to a point where I could actually make like a good save, and I could choose a path and then come back to this specific save, and then so I don't have to replay the first 20 hours of the game. So
when you get that little warning message, that's the time when you go, I think I'm going to save it right here.
Right here is where we're going to save this. So I don't know.
I don't think I could, I'm kind of on the opposite end of the scale from, I would rather go with the Brotherhood of Steel than the Institute, I think. Mm-hmm. If people don't understand what we're talking about, you got to play Fallout 4. It's kind of hard to describe, or maybe just read a wiki on the Fallout lore. But the Brotherhood of Steel and the Institute are kind of on 2 different ends of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. As far as the Brotherhood of Steel think that all synthetic life forms should be pretty much wiped out. Mm-hmm. Which makes them kind of icky, let's be honest. And the Institute pretty much thinks that now I might get this a little bit wrong, DJ, because I didn't do a lot with the Institute, but they kind of think that the synthetics are kind of going to be the savior of humanity, or they're just going to they're almost better than humans. I mean, their goal is to make them better than humans. Although I will say that scene in the Institute where they're actually making the synths with that machine. Mm-hmm. Where they're like almost like 3D printing them, and then they dip them into the skin liquid and they walk out a synth. That is some of the most impressive graphics in that whole game.
I think that's why I love Westworld, right? Because it's like the modern Western Institute. It's just like, let's make some hosts.
Yeah.
They just print them and dip them.
That was pretty cool. I took a lot of screenshots in that area.
God, what was I thinking? I had a thought and then I forgot it. I'm sorry. It was a good thought too.
I probably derailed you with the Institute talk.
We can all agree that the railroads suck.
I think their heart's in the right place.
Yeah, there was this there's a YouTuber out there. If you just Google or YouTube search for like, is the Institute evil or is the Institute good, right? He has 6 videos out. One's like, the Institute is evil, the Institute is evil or is good, the railroad is good, the railroad is evil, right? And they're like 45 minutes long, but it's almost like a doctorate dissertation level now, where
okay.
he like point by point just tears apart everybody's conspiracies and everything, and it's
All
just
their
like,
philosophies.
it's really, oh god, it gets so deep into it. And it's like, by the end of each episode, you're like, God, the Institute really is evil. And then you watch the next one, and you're like, man, they really are trying to save humanity. It's just like, just like, that's how deep the game is. And like, people forget about the deepness of the lore and the plot and all that. They're like, oh, this game's glitchy. It's like, ah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, to circle back, I think that's why I'm terrified of Fallout 76, is because they took all the NPC interactions and all that out, right? Like, it's just other characters, right? And enemies.
That's a good question. I don't know if they did that. Maybe they did. If so, that would be a big NPCs. Minus in my book too.
Yeah. So the plot and everything comes from either killing enemies or killing each other.
I know you can find these. I mean, I got far enough in it that I know you can find these little tapes along the way that you play in your Pip-Boy, and they can kind of guide you.
Yeah.
But I don't think I ever did interact with an NPC when I played my big 45 minutes of that game.
Well, anyways. So back to races and classes and stuff that we don't play. What did you have any specific examples?
I didn't. Well, this is kind of funny. And maybe this comes from playing Lotro for so long, but it took me until about a month ago before I would create an orc in ESO. Because in Lotro or Lord of the Rings universe, orcs are always the bad guys.
Yeah.
And so that seemed a little bit strange to me. But the more I interacted with the orcs in the Elder Scrolls world, the more I understood that this is really a completely different thing. And I knew it to begin with, but your brain kind of makes these associations whether you want it to or not. But now I rolled an orc dragon knight, and I'm leveling him through the orc region of ESO, so that he can have friends. And I really like him. I think he's going to be one of my probably about my second favorite character once I get done with him, because I'm building him to do damage, and some of their dragon fire skills that they have are pretty impressive. They're a lot of fun.
Sort of on the subject, maybe that's something, because I know you and I never played World of Warcraft, right?
Right.
Maybe to someone who's been playing WoW, rolling an orc probably wouldn't be that odd of an occurrence, right? Because in that game, you have to choose a side, basically. It was the same thing, actually, now that we bring it up, with Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2, they had like the 4 major factions, and you played in every section of that faction's world, right?
Yeah.
So at one point, you're playing through your enemies or your friends.
Yeah. ESO does the exact same thing. Yeah, exact same thing.
But of course, in the Tolkien universe, it's either good or darker or light, right? It's the forces of Sauron.
Yeah, it's pretty cut and dry in that.
Or universe, the free people.
Right. I would say even Gollum at the end isn't as gray as you think he is.
Spoiler.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. If you haven't read the books or seen the movies, please go do that.
I think we could spoil it at this point.
So what are we into?
Well, I'll just get it off my chest. Lego Movie 2 is awesome. It was a near empty theater because we saw it early in the day. There was only like 3 or 4 other families in there. And at one point I heard some dude behind me loudly snoring. You could tell that guy was not watching.
What?
Right?
Really?
It's just an old guy. He fell asleep, but he was like, like really loud. He was just like, really? Like, but then everybody else is kind of chuckling mildly, and I am just dying laughing. Like at one point I had tears. I was laughing so hard. And maybe I was just getting into it and I was just in the moment, but like my kids were laughing and I was having a good time, but hopefully I wasn't that annoying, loud laughter guy, right? But like I really wish I would have seen that with like a big crowd, right? Because that's how great it was. Like I wanted to like fist bump and high five people when you're done with the movie. It's just like, and like, do you remember in the old game or the old Lego movie how there's spoilers if you haven't seen the old Lego movie. There was that fourth wall where they went out of the Lego verse universe and suddenly it was Will Ferrell
Yep.
talking to his son. They break that down harder in this one, and it all comes full circle, and I won't ruin the plot. Very early on in the movie, though, and this circles back to our entire conversation this night. Very early on in the movie, the sister breaks the Lego table, and suddenly in the Lego universe, it's like Mad Max / Fallout. Like there's just ruined buildings, and it's just like a ruined, post-apocalyptic thing, and everybody's running around with like, Raider armor on, and it's hilarious. Like oh my god, I was laughing so hard at that section of the movie where it's just like, the whole what happens in the real world versus what happens in the Lego universe, and suddenly it's just like it boiled down to like there was literally a scene where it's like Mad Max and they're driving out with all these, into the wasteland with all these like mocked up cars, and there's the dude with the guitar, and I'm just like, yes, like this is awesome. Oh, and I left the movie and immediately bought the original soundtrack on iTunes. So yeah.
Could you compare? Because I've only seen the first one. How does it compare to the first one? I felt like the first one was awful good, and I thought it would be very difficult to come up with a sequel that could kind of match that.
They went above and beyond the first one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and
that's high praise.
And I talk with these guys online. I'm friends with these guys who have a podcast where they critique cinema, and they're very hardcore movie files, and I cannot convince them to go see this movie because they're just like they're like they hate on things that are sequels. And I'm just like,
okay,
just like, you guys are the grumpy old guys.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was because
like,
it was animated or something, because some people won't watch animated movies.
Typically, they literally use my tweet reviews to them as the reviews of animated movies because they just don't have kids,
Oh, yeah, I guess that could make a difference.
Yeah. I'm going to go see this again before it's out of the theater.
I was going to bring this up later, and I don't want to derail us, but I think if you're not watching animated movies right now, you're missing a whole lot, because in my humble non-cinemaphile opinion, the best movie of 2018 was the Spider-Man Spider-Verse movie. And it came out right at the end of the year, but I watched the Avenger movie, I watched everything else that was supposed to be these big, awesome Hollywood blockbuster movies. That movie absolutely blew me away in every way, in every single way.
Yeah.
I went in expecting the animation to be good because I'd seen the previews, but the story blew me away. The humor blew me away. It was just a complete animated movie, in my opinion. And I think if you're shutting yourself off from that kind of stuff, you're missing a lot of what Hollywood has to offer right now.
Mm-hmm. I went into Spider-Verse on a weekend. I took my kids there, totally expecting to be stupid, animated movie. I was going to like play on my phone the entire movie. Like I was planning on this because I'm like, I usually just don't get into, these superhero movies. And this was like an animated version. And I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be like watching a SpongeBob movie or something. I loved that film. Like I totally will eat my crow, or whatever, I'm just like,
whatever you need to eat.
Yeah. I'm just like, I take it all back. That was a great movie.
Yeah, it was really good. But like I said, I didn't want to derail the Lego 2 talk, because I kind of went into the first Lego movie like you went into the Spider-Verse movie. I went in because, my kids had these VHS tapes and DVDs of like Lego Ninjago or whatever else came with these Lego building sets, and they would watch these and they'd be like, okay, that's a nice little, you bought $100 Lego set, let's throw a VHS tape in with it or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So I thought it was going to be just a full-length feature or something like that. And this is before, this is when Chris Pratt was just being discovered by everybody, and all of the famous voiceover people that were doing it, and the humor that was in it, and the pace with which everything came at you, and the pop culture references, and the animation is just the icing on the cake at that point. I was blown away by the first Lego movie. I did not expect much at all, and it was really just a great surprise.
There's more comedy, there's more funny music, there's definitely more catchy songs. Batman is Batmanier, Unikitty is more hilarious. Like, it just like they amped it up, and it was so good. There was I can't think of like one part of the entire movie where I was just like bored, right? It was like there's always like one or two scenes in a movie you're just like, okay, well, like, you understand they have to do it to sort of progress the story, blah blah blah. But like this entire time, I was just like, I was focused, like I was on the edge of my seat, and even during the slow parts of the movie, it was just like it was killing you. He was like, oh, it's like, oh, it's like, why is this happening? And it's like extremes from absolute hysterical laughter to near like crying because like it was something was so emotional, just like it was huge arcs and back and forth, and then there's plot twist, which I won't talk about. But
okay. Well, I look forward to it.
When you see it, I promise we will rip that movie apart. We'll do an entire show.
Sounds
just
good.
about.
I'm sure we'll see. I've already been. My little guy has already asked when it comes out, and this was a couple weeks ago. So I'm sure when he finds out that it's out, we'll be trying to find a couple hours to go.
Go see it. Have you seen it yet?
Well, speaking of viewing habits,
you've been rewatching DVDs, it appears.
As I wrote in the show notes, with all of the viewing options available in 2019 and everything that you would ever want to watch it at the click of a button at your fingertips, I decided to break out the old Seinfeld DVDs and start rewatching the series. Yes, and this
Seinfeld.
I don't know
DVD.
why. I don't know. Well, it might be the only way you can
it?
get them. I don't know. No, you can't. I don't think you can stream it unless you. Maybe with a Hulu subscription you might be able to.
Okay. I haven't looked, honestly.
Although I think I tried that. I think I tried the free trial with Hulu, and they still only had like 6 episodes per season or something. I don't think they had the whole thing.
This is creepy because it circles back into the main conversation tonight. Are there any races you don't play? I don't play as Seinfeld, right?
Well,
I don't get Seinfeld.
Okay, so this is good because this is what I wanted to talk about, right? It seems like with Seinfeld was a huge hit in the 90s. Absolutely the biggest sitcom probably of the entire decade, right?
I'll acknowledge that it was a hit.
It was, I mean, it propelled Jerry Seinfeld into super mega stardom. He never has to worry about money again in his entire life. Mm-hmm. Whenever he works now, he does it because he wants to, and he wants to have fun riding in cars, talking to comedians. But there are some people, when you bring up Seinfeld, it seems like there's 2 types of people. There's the people that can quote every single line from the series and think it's absolutely the best thing to ever hit television. And then there's the people that just go,
And this is the same thing here. My wife and I absolutely loved Friends. We own the entire box set. We've watched it 6 times end to end. I know people who love Friends, and we can invite them over and we can have like a Friends trivia pursuit, trivial pursuit night, right? Mm-hmm. And at the same point, there's a couple of my friends where you say the word Friends and they're just like, don't talk to me. They want nothing to do with that show. There are so many good shows that are like that, like Friends. Scrubs was another one.
Oh, I love that show.
Yeah, it's like some people love it, some people hate it. But yeah, I'm firmly in the I just didn't find it funny camp. And it's like, I hope we could be friends. We could work together and be awesome.
I will. Well, I'm going to say that despite the way I introduced the segment here, I feel like I'm kind of more in the middle, really. There are some episodes that I really like a lot. And then there was like one I watched last night, which was the one where Jerry and George have sold this idea to NBC to have a sitcom about nothing. And they're sitting down together after that, trying to write the first episode. And of course, they sold a sitcom about nothing, so they have nothing to write. And so basically, the whole episode is them sitting down and then finding excuses why they're not writing anything.
That's so meta.
Yeah. So, I mean, the concept is kind of funny, but really, I thought the execution was, to watch that for 20 or 25 minutes, or however long it is just not that interesting, right? I mean, it's one joke.
And going back, rewatching some of the Friends episodes, when I started rewatching Friends when it showed up on Netflix, and I would stream it on my iPad while I was homebrewing, because you're standing there in the garage for 4 to 5 hours at a time boiling liquid. And so I would just have Friends looping or playing in the background. And I've realized that it's starting to age, and it's starting to age itself out of being funny. Like when they're talking about cell phones when they first came out, and it was like, it's like the jokes are kind of fading. Like, is Seinfeld getting that point too, where it's phasing itself out of, being funny?
Well,
because that was like pre 9/11, wasn't it? And it was set in New York City.
I think a lot of this stuff, a lot of the humor kind of holds up because it's so character based.
Yeah.
I mean, you're laughing at something that George says, not because what he said is particularly funny, but because I've been with George for 4 seasons and I know George, and it's funny that he said it, right? So the situations are a little bit. Sometimes I do notice. Sometimes I'm watching a Seinfeld episode and I go, yeah, you couldn't do that episode today because the whole plot revolves around a guy that stole Jerry's car and is calling him on his car phone, quote unquote car phone, and it's like, this is not, I mean, you couldn't really do that today. And there's a lot of gags with Jerry on his landline phone talking to somebody. And it's like, nobody really understands that anymore. And
landline.
And he's got a Macintosh computer sitting back behind him in his apartment that he's never on. He never uses it. He's a comedian. He writes on a piece of paper with a pencil, right? That's what he's doing in this episode when he's writing with George. They got out their notebooks, and there's a Macintosh sitting right behind you. So I know there's little things that I notice being in 2019 now, but I don't think they really detract from the humor at all. It's more of just well, yeah, that's what the 90s was, I got a powerful writing tool behind me, but I'm going to grab a notepad.
That's how you do it.
I'm glad that you brought up Friends too, because I was thinking about, Friends and Seinfeld used to run pretty much back to back on Thursday nights when they aired on NBC back in the 90s. And it was interesting to me that they're both set in New York City, which I would think would kind of alienate folks like you and me right away because I'm never going to live in New York City and I don't really care to. But it's interesting the way that the two New York cities are portrayed, because the one in Friends is kind of this hip, trendy coffee shop, fun New York City. And the one in Seinfeld is kind of more dark and gritty and probably a little more realistic in some ways, but also the folks that they talk to on the street are much more caricatures. They're very exaggerated, whether it's the soup Nazi guy or whatever else. They're cartoon characters more than anything else. But the two New York cities, even though they were the same era and they aired back to back, they felt like two different places almost.
Yeah. And from what I do know of New York City, you could totally go a couple blocks and it's a whole new landscape. It's like a different country.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Everybody loves you on one street corner, and then it's just like warfare on the next one. So
it's always fun to hear them talking about like the New York Knicks and some of the players that are on the team at the time and stuff like that. Talking about Patrick Ewing and John Starks, and it's like, yeah, I remember those days. I wish I was still in the 90s.
What was the guy they kept bringing up? George Stephanopoulos or something in Friends.
George Stephanopoulos, yeah.
He's just like, he was like, oh my God, I forgot about that guy.
And in Seinfeld, it was George Steinbrenner. There was actually a whole character that you always saw the back of his head. It was the owner of the Yankees. May he rest in peace. But
yeah.
So how's the vlogging going?
Oh man, so I started out the new year. I watched so much YouTube. I realized that especially 2018 for me was the YouTube year where I started watching more YouTube than actual television or other media sources, right? And I'm like, I should just give in to this somehow and accept it because this is the new norm, right? Embrace the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I started 2019 doing daily vlogs, and I've been trying to get healthier and just work on things. But at the same point, I was just being more entertaining. And as far as like getting yourself out there, it is a wonderful tool. But I realized at the very end of January, I stopped doing daily vlogs because I was just like, it was too much to do every single day. And some days I would honestly put out like 20-minute vlogs, which is a lot of editing to push out right at the end of the day.
That's big. Yeah, if you're doing that every day, that's a big.
But then there was other days where like I was struggling to get like 4 to 5 minutes of video, and I realized that I was forcing myself to vlog. And when I was forcing myself, those days I go back and I rewatch pieces of them, and I didn't. You could tell that I was forcing myself. So that's why I was just like, I just need to only do it when I have something to talk about or I'm inspired, right? But I'm at least trying to still do like one a week just to sort of keep it going, But It's been fun as heck. And I have all sorts of new gadgets and toys to play with, I've been my main camera, ironically, literally is this GoPro Hero 5, this little tiny thing, right? And I got the
little tripod there.
Yeah, the octopus tripod. You could connect it to anything.
your head.
You could if you want, but like you could go downtown and like, oh, here's a railing, and you just snake it around the railing, right? And it just octopuses itself there. But yeah, that thing is so tiny that like you could just throw it in your pocket, walk into a restaurant, and we could be just sitting there at a table, and I'll just pull it out and we'll just do a little filming. I could see how people, the professional vloggers, oh my God, the cat. I could see, the cat says hi. Hi.
Okay. I hope that cat landed somewhere. He just flew off screen.
She's fine. Yeah, so vlogging styles, I can see how some people, like if they got those gigantic cameras that they're carrying around, that can be kind of awkward. And of course, it's way off camera. You've seen the drone footage.
So tell me a little bit.
You got to get a drone.
You said something about getting healthier in vlogging. Is it kind of a workout saga, or what is?
Yeah, I some of it is working out. Some of it's like I talk to myself about like counting calories and just sort of, it's almost like a lot of self-reflection on like, why was I eating this and I need to eat this instead.
Okay,
right?
all right.
So there's some of that. It's almost like years and years ago, my wife and I loved the TV show The Biggest Loser, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's almost like I'm filming myself almost as if I'm like my own Biggest Loser contestant, but I'm not like, competing, but like, I feel like at some point I'm going to be filming it myself. I'm going to have my breakthrough moment. And you'll be like, it all makes sense, So I don't know. It's been fun. Yeah, I'm down, I think 14 pounds so far.
Okay.
January. Not bad.
No, that's pretty good.
And another thing is like, since I'm vlogging and it's video feed, I'm like real name, nothing. I'm not holding much back as far as, sensitivity. Obviously I'm not walking around naked, but like I'm not hiding behind my DJ Pimp Daddy persona. Right.
Right.
So it's been fun. My kids love it to death. And my wife actually isn't annoyed by it. She hates when I was like, hey, I'm going to do a podcast tonight with Braxwell. She kind of rolled her eyes,
Oh, come on now.
No offense, but she doesn't like the video games, and she thinks podcasting's lame and boring, but then she'll listen to it, But like, I have every morning, I would get up and I would actually see like her in bed watching last night's vlog. Okay. Like I catch her watch, like she's #1 fan apparently. Well, she loves that.
this is going to be kind of a long episode, but I'm going to follow this because I'm super interested in what you're talking about right now, and I hope other people are too. How do you find that has been helpful to you to do that? Are you getting feedback from people, or is it just the fact that you feel like you're accountable to make this vlog every day, or however often you can make it? So that brings a level of self-accountability to do it.
Yeah. Right now, it's a lot more the second, where I'm at least recording and documenting things and real statistics and my feelings at the time. And I'm not being DJ Pimp Daddy. I'm not acting. I'm not hamming it up just for the sake of hamming it up. Like, if you see my kids and I in the vlog having fun, we're legitimately like out having fun. And because of that, it's if you wake up on a Saturday with the intention of taking your camera out and having fun, you and your kids will actually go out and have fun instead of just sitting around playing video games all day, right? And because of that, I'm actually stupidly more active, which then turns into burning calories more instead of just being, lazy around the house all the time. So I went from an extremely sedentary lifestyle, especially as an IT guy, to now I'm just like, let's go for a walk, or hey, let's go to the park, or let's run around outside and fly my drone, and let's get some sunlight, even if there's Arctic polar vortex. The polar vortex really cramped things.
It did.
That's when the vlogging went way down as far as like good content, because it was too cold to think.
Yes. I mean, we were doing the same thing. We got a new puppy a little while ago, and we've been trying to take him out to the dog park every couple of days. And once that week hit, it's like everything just stopped. We're just
how do you even puppy train, right?
It's like, don't open the door.
Exactly. Like, keep the door, just go ahead and pee on the carpet. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. That's very interesting to me. I'm not sure that's something I would be able to do.
And I'm getting really good at like fast editing video.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could take, an hour video and chop it down to like 15 minutes and like maybe 20 minutes of effort, right? And so as far as like technical skills, I'm getting so much better at it. I feel like I'm learning something new every day as far as like a technical skill, either filming, editing, or, and then also in the process, I'm also teaching myself, I'm like dipping my toe into the hot tub of fitness, right? Like, I went out and I got these like barbell exercise cards to learn new exercises with, barbells and, body weights and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, one thing I did want to make sure is like, I didn't want to go on like an extreme diet, right, of some sort,
right?
Because those never work. And I also don't want to be like, I don't want to be one of those people that just lives in a gym, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I'm filming myself learning to eat better, and I'm also filming myself, learning how to make exercise fun, right? And then people talk about like, oh, I'm on a couch to 5K program. Well, I'm on like a couch to moving program. So it's been interesting, and it's been a ride, and I can see myself obviously keep doing this, but I'm still not at that comfort stage where I'm going to advertise, the YouTube channel, but It's out there. If you know my real name and you want to search, you're welcome to find it. I think I have 8 subscribers on that channel, and I have had one comment, and it was some guy saying, you should talk about car or fixing cars up. And I'm like, what? It was like the dumbest comment ever. I'm like, thanks. It's just like I don't get it, but whatever. I
like that. That's hilarious.
And yeah.
I was gonna say, this is totally only related to the comment that you just said, because I still get comments sometimes on my Lotro Hunter videos that I made 5 years ago of somebody saying, should I do this with my build? I'm like, yeah. Well, first of all, I was never good at builds to begin with. Second of all, I haven't played for like 3 years, so you might want to ask someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been fun.
Cool.
I think I would I would recommend people like if if you're like new age into self discovery, like it's an interesting tool to just sort of, it's very therapeutic to just take a second, step aside, give your thoughts into a camera, and then move on with your life.
So have you done it since the beginning of the year?
Yeah, started January 1st.
So I think, what do they say, 6 weeks to make a habit or something like that?
Yeah.
So you're almost there. You're getting.
Yeah. I got episodes like 1 through 31 are up, and then I'm working on like the first week of February. I still haven't edited that down yet, but like like I said, there was like Arctic blast and coldness, and there wasn't much to film. So like,
yeah.
And I'm like, as a result, I'm now building a new office space in my basement. So podcasting wise, it's probably the last time you'll see this scene behind me. I've put pictures on Twitter of like the new stuff, and that's been like a really big topic in my vlogs recently. It's just me talking about building this office, but as a result, I'm also like building it to where I could, move more, and I got a section dedicated just for like exercise, and I still got to fix my poor exercise bike so I could get back on the Oblivion bike, as I call it. we play Oblivion all day while pedaling. But
all right,
see, that could be the Polar Vortex bike.
Yeah,
freezing cold, you just jump
stay
on
warm
the
that
bike.
way. Yeah.
So
be your work from home bike.
Yeah. This is one of the rare things where I love it. It's very technical and sort of geeky, but at the same time, my wife actually severely supports it. Right? She's like totally behind that. But if it was like, oh, I'm playing video games, she'd be like, you're wasting your life.
Speaking about wasting our lives, what are you looking forward to?
I am looking forward to, obviously, season 8 of Game of Thrones is coming. And I put a countdown in there, nextgot.com. It's like, I haven't looked today. What is it? It's like, it's in the 60s. How many days to it?
This is the end, right?
63 days to the final season of Game of Thrones.
This is where they tell George R.R. how it ends, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I'm hilariously looking forward to that. Yeah, and other than that, I really have not much that I'm just like
understandable.
Like you got some stuff here, though.
We're through the holidays. Some of that stuff is behind us now. Yeah, I mean, mostly Elder Scrolls has announced their next chapter, which is coming out, I think, officially the day after my birthday. Mm-hmm. But I pre-ordered, so I'll get into it a little bit early. But they're going to release Elsewhere, which is where the Khajiits live.
Nice.
And they're going to have dragons in the next part of the story, which was kind of a big deal. They haven't had dragons in ESO before, and a lot of people even said lore-wise they could never have dragons in ESO. But they're saying, you know what, we're writing the lore, so get over yourselves.
Is ESO after Skyrim?
No, it's before all of them.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of a prequel.
I can see how that breaks, because they don't mention dragons anywhere except for Oblivion.
In this one, the I don't know if you remember you probably do if you played through Morrowind. The what do they call them? The 3 Dumner that are like living gods, Alamalexia, Vivek, and Sothasil.
Not gonna work here anymore.
Those 3 are actually alive in this time period, and they're
okay.
They're not later on. They're just kind of revered as gods. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of a big deal. The Necromancer class is coming with that update, and it's gonna be a pretty big deal. I don't think they've done Elsewhere in any other Elder Scrolls game. So,
they've always talked about it, but it's never been brought up.
In fact,
what are they doing for the Elder Scrolls 6?
Well, that's what I was just going to say. A lot of people were guessing that might be what Elder Scrolls 6 is, but I don't.
Okay. Now
that ESO is doing it, I'm wondering how that would work. I mean, unless they're working very closely together with the other team there at Bethesda. Mm-hmm. To make sure that whatever comes out, if they're the same area, they've got to at least match up a little bit.
I was going to say, that'd be kind of a ripoff if it was the same exact game, but like one's an MMO and one's not. It's just
They
like
did some
feel cheated.
There's some pretty cool stuff in the Rift Zone of ESO that, like, the city of Riften is there, and that's a main city within Skyrim in the 4th era. This is the 2nd era. Where you can kind of see it's a much smaller city, but you can kind of see kind of the skeleton of how it's eventually going to look in Skyrim. So they did some pretty cool stuff. They're making it look like a previous version of the city that wasn't quite what,
like the canals
what
and
it grows
the castle.
to. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it was kind of funny. The first time I went there, I wandered over to the far north east side of town and went, this is where my house is in Skyrim, because I bought the Riften house.
You would.
So that's pretty much it. Okay, let's move on. We can't spend too much more time on this, or your wife is going to come down and hit you on the head.
Yeah.
We do have a question in our Ask Us Anything segment of the show tonight. Our friend Fredelas from Twitter asked us. It's a 2-part question. How would you react if you were outside and noticed a hobby drone with a camera flying overhead?
I haven't answered this.
That's part A or part 1. And would you react differently if you were inside and saw it flying outside your window?
Okay, so hang on. Okay, while we're answering this, I got to get something out. As to the first question, I actually covered this in one of my vlogs. I was outside flying, or I was outside, and I saw a drone, like a really nice drone flying over my house. But it wasn't flying like over my house. It was at altitude, right? And being a drone guy, I knew that it was far enough up to where I was just a speck, right? It wasn't like it was high res, like looking down my shirt or something dumb, right?
Yeah.
But me in my neighborhood, I've seen some of my neighbors come over and play with my drone when I have it, and I could see that they're trying to grapple with the idea of, something flying around the neighborhood with a camera. So I'm really gentle about, like, oh, here's what it looks like, and I fly it like way up there to where I'm not buzzing over people's houses and stuff. And when you tackle that, you could educate people on it, right? But to that second question, yeah, if it was right outside the window looking in, that's kind of creepy. And that's why I have my FAA license card here. I'm actually licensed, and on the back it has rules and instructions, and one of them is, no being a creep, right? It says that on the back of the card, but you're not supposed to fly it next to people's windows, like peeping in. That's a rule. But in my vlog where I was outside, literally vlogging in daylight, and I saw this fancy camera, I ran and I grabbed my drone and I chased it, because I was just like, now I got to find where this guy is, So we were like drone buddies, and I was following him. And his drone is significantly faster than mine. So
okay. I do think I would react differently. First of all,
I could sympathize though about people that just get creeped out.
Yeah. I think it's actually kind of cool. I've seen some really, being someone who's interested in amateur photography, I've seen some really, really cool pictures coming from drones. We had a new football field built at the high school last year, and we got some killer pictures of that new field from some drone shots that some guy pushed up over the high school.
Nice.
I really kind of like that. It gives you a really different perspective on where you live when you can see it from that altitude,
Oh yeah. Same, even with my boring neighborhood, I could take, you send it up a couple 100 feet and suddenly your boring suburban neighborhood looks fun, Yeah. You're like flying around. But I typically, like, even in my own neighborhood, unless I'm in my own yard or near my yard, I have it like at least at 100 feet off the ground. And between like 100 and 200 feet, 2 miles away from me there's a police heliport. That's where the sheriff lands his helicopter. Our sheriff's fancy and has helicopters. We pay way too much taxes. But because of that, like, I don't near my house, I don't fly it too high because that actually could potentially be in his airspace. So
Okay, that's interesting. You
yeah,
got to be careful with that stuff.
yeah, I'm outside of what they consider the Class D airport space, right? I'm outside of like a 5 mile range of an actual, Cincinnati airport.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, that's drones and drone law. It's an interesting fickle thing because the people who don't know anything about drones are the people who are writing the laws. So then the people who do have drones, the hobbyists, are like completely opposite the other way because they realize that they're going to get screwed. So then they take a complete opposite way. And then there's this like middle ground where everyone needs to come meet. And I don't think society's anywhere close to being to that maturity level where people are going to meet in the middle. So at least like when I'm like out with my neighbors and stuff, I show them, I was like, hey, this is what it looks like. This is a drone, here's how you operate it safely and don't crash into people's houses and that.
Because of the area that I live in, if there's a drone flying outside my window, it's only there to look at inside the window or at my house because we have a gully on one side of our house that's fully wooded between us and our neighbors. It's basically a runoff gully from the cornfield behind us. And on the other side, we have an empty wooded lot that nobody has built on. So there is no way that somebody is accidentally in my yard with a drone.
Yeah, yeah.
No chance at all. And I don't own a gun, but I might grab a broom and start whacking at that thing if I did see it around my house.
Yeah, there definitely is a huge difference between flying it at altitude over someone's property versus flying it in their property, right? Like that, yeah. I would probably take offense to that, even myself.
And I mean, it's one of those things that your gut knows too, right?
Oh yeah. And you're not supposed to ever fly them over people, so you can't go to most parks and stuff and fly them, or like you always see people flying them over beaches and stuff, like looking at surf and all that. And I'm in the camp as long as you keep it up really high and we do it more scenic, that's fine. But yeah, when you start like creeping in and zooming in on people, yeah, it's my drone doesn't have zoom, so if you want something closer, you got to fly it right up. So
yeah, that's another thing. I mean, I guess I hadn't thought of that. I got my son one of those little cheap ones a couple years ago for Christmas, and it lasted like 2 days. But at any rate,
yeah.
but the camera on it was pretty bad. I got to assume that on the more expensive versions, and even as time has gone by, they've actually gotten pretty good.
Yeah, this is my son's toy drone, and yeah, we've wrecked this thing so hard that I've had to glue pieces back on it. Yeah. And yeah, the camera on this sucks, and yeah, just a piece just fell off. This was like $60, and this thing was unpredictable when you flew it.
Right. That was the other thing we noticed with his was, and that's why they wreck, right? Because they're so hard to control.
And then mine's over here somewhere. Oh yeah, here it is. Here's my drone, and ironically, it's the same size practically. Let me cover up my FAA number. But see, I do have my FAA number.
Oh, interesting. So for the listeners instead of the viewers, this drone that DJ is showing right now is about actually the same size.
This is registered with the FAA.
It's about the same size as the kid's one that he has, but it's just a much higher quality. It's probably about, what would you say, about a foot long? Is all?
This is 5.5 ounces, or no, 5.5 pounds. Or no, it's ounces. Yeah, I'm getting my ounces and pounds mixed up here.
Yeah, stupid imperial system.
This is just above the FAA limit for considering it a toy.
Okay.
It's got some weight to it. It is significantly heavier than this thing, right? And it's about the same size when you unfold them. Mm-hmm. But this is a rigid body, so there's no folding it up. But this is by DJI. This is a DJI Spark. And it is, I think it starts at $499, and then if you get the kit with the remote, the remote is like a serious it's a really high tech remote. So the remote itself is like $150. So when you all in, you're in like about $700 when you accessorize it and that. But this thing it's GPS enabled. So once it's up and it tracks the GPS signal, it's rock solid. And you can fly this in 20-mile-an-hour wind and it'll just sit there and it won't move. And yeah, it has a gimbal. It's just a 2-way gimbal on the front. And then of course you could do long range video feed back to the remote, tethered to your iPhone. It's freaking amazing. And as a vlogger, you're just like, it is so nice to get like B-roll and footage, stuff. And yeah, and this is their smallest one, and this is almost considered like an entry level drone for them, like because the what is it, the camera, it's good, it takes 1080, but for this caliber of drone, 1080 is like the entry level video. Like everything's like 4K, or like 8K, or I don't even know what K anymore.
Like, I lost track too. I thought 4 was the highest, but now I'm hearing that it's not. So,
and like I think like if I switched to 4K, I'd be melting my computer trying to do like daily vlogging.
Yeah, I thought I was doing good to get a 1080 webcam here, and now I'm hearing.
But like literally, like it comes with a case, and it just like, look how tiny this is.
That looks like an old CD case.
That's a full-size drone. Yeah. and this will fly 2 miles from my house with video if you wanted to.
That's pretty cool. That's
illegal because you must maintain line of sight per the FAA card.
That is an amazing and expensive hobby.
Drones are extremely fun if you ever get the chance of playing with one, like a good one. That's where it starts getting fun. But yeah, the little toy ones where you just like, you expect it to just smash it into a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. That when you get into this level drone, like if you hit somebody with it, you hurt them. Like they will be bleeding. You know, it's not like, oh, the toy's going to break. It's like, no, you're going to cut skin. So
cool.
So yeah, my answer is chase the other drone with your drone.
That wasn't the question.
Have a drone off. It's like in.
I don't think that's an answer.
It was like in Iron Eagle, where they were just like.
Oh yeah. We've had Mad Max and Iron Eagle on this program tonight. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, DJ. We did not get any feedback over our long absence, which is highly what I expected. But if you would like to send us feedback on this show or any others, you can send it to braxwolf@gmail.com. I'll read it on the podcast. This is a reminder that Beyond Boss Fights is on iTunes and would appreciate your ratings and reviews. Beyond Boss Fights does not any longer broadcast live on Twitch, so I'll have to change that in the show notes.
Are we still going to debut them on Twitch? Like, are we still going to...
I'll look into that. I don't know that I can do that anymore.
Okay.
I think that that's something that only like their preferred people can do now.
Oh.
And we're not. We're just not.
Preferred people.
Where they prefer we don't use Twitch at all. So if you want to follow DJ, his Twitter is at DJPimpDaddy. His email is djpimpdaddy@gmail.com. And if you want to watch him stream on Twitch from his PlayStation or anywhere else, it's twitch.tv/DJPimpDaddy.
Yes.
As for me, my Twitter is at Braxwolf. That's BRAXWOLF. My email is braxwolf@gmail.com. Same spelling. My Twitch is also twitch.tv/Braxwolf, but there's not going to be a lot going on there unless I can figure out how to do the preview thing. So enjoy the blank screen. Actually, I do host other people. I do, co-host other people on there every now and then. So
it's a mistake.
DJ is now flying a drone in his basement. What do the red lights mean? That looks ominous.
You see it? Hang on. This is what you look like. Yeah, let me turn it. This is the best part of the whole show. This is so meta. You're looking at yourself through a drone.
That's DJ, the back of DJ's head and me on the monitor. So, as thrilling as that probably is for the video viewers, I'm guessing that the audio people are now lost.
What? I can't hear you.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching and listening. Like I said, anytime you want to send us some feedback, hopefully we'll be back within a month's time. And we will, as long as I can bring out the outro music, we will see you on the next Beyond Boss Fights.
It's a bad idea.
No more drones. No more drones. That's a rule on the podcast.